I'm sure you've seen all the coverage that's been going on with Iran. I'm sure you've seen all the massive protesting, the civil uprising, the government of Iran going full force against the people of the country, how there's, tactical military efforts to go against the protesters, brutalize them, strict them of their rights. They cut off the internet, they cut off cell phone services to not spread information about this. And it kind of almost has a similarity to what we dealt with during the pandemic when it came to the truckers, when it came to the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, in the same instances that the Canadian government, primarily Justin Trudeau, pulled out the Emergency Powers Act that brutally demonized against Canadians. So I understand why people have this connection between what happened with us during the Freedom Convoy and the Iranian people today. But the thing I want to show you, and we'll get into about this, is that it kind of seems like there's something fishy going on. Meaning that the characters, the people that are the usual suspects to promote anti-Iranian propaganda that have told us since October 7th that these are criminals, that the whole country is a wreck, that, you should never trust an Iranian because they're tied to Hezbollah. It's a terrorist, uprising there. All of a sudden are showing support for the Iranian people. Why is that? We'll find out about that. But first, the reason I'm bringing this to attention is because the streets within Canada joined the solidarity for the protesting in Iran here. So from City News, Canadians join global protests in solidarity with Iranian uprising. Demonstrations were held in several Canadian cities on Saturday to voice support for the Iranian people as a popular uprising sweeping across Iran neared the 2-week mark. Protesters in Montreal and Ottawa demanded the fall of the Islamic regime and the return of Reza Pahlavi. I don't know how to pronounce that. I do apologize. The son of the former Shah of Iran, who has been in exile in the United States for 47 years. A demonstration was also held in Toronto on Friday. Khatun has, oh my God, how do you say that? Kataun Hagzadeh says he went to the Montreal event to be the voice of the Iranian people currently in the streets and facing down torture and death at the hands of the Iranian regime as they fight for change. Iran's theocracy cut internet and telephone service on Thursday, severely limiting information about countrywide protests over Iranian's faltering economy that began on December 28th and have been evolved into a biggest challenge for the government in years. The death toll in the protests has grown to at least 72 people killed and over 2,300 others detained, according to the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency. Protests marching in downtown Montreal toward the U.S. consulate on Saturday welcomed American government support for protests, but they also want Canada's government to step up. On Friday, the foreign ministers of Australia, Canada, and the European Union issued a joint statement condemning the violence against the Iranian people. Now, here's where I kind of step back and give a little smirk at this and find this a bit fishy. Because while I understand that, yes, these are people that are dealing with a terrible regime in Iran and maybe want a difference in government, maybe they want to self-determine how their country should function, which is the right of any country. They should be able to self-determine how that country should operate. I find it so interesting that the people, the same governments, the same countries that invoked their own strategic measures to put authoritarian, theocratic kind of brutalization on their own people are demonizing, wagging the finger at another country. We talked about Canada and the truckers that got, their bank accounts frozen, the people that got attacked and brutalized, the fact that they wanted to throw Tamara Leach and Chris Barber in jail for 10 years because they showed solidarity for Canadians in a peaceful demonstration. But, you look at the list here. Australia, the Australian government wanted to throw its people into a concentration camp for not getting the injection. The European Union is currently initializing attacks against freedom of speech and then forcing people to a digital ID. So, forgive me if I don't believe the sentiment coming from these individuals when their governments are complicit of the human violations that they're complaining that Iran is doing to its people. Also says Prime Minister Mark Carney also reacted to the reports of violence, arbitrary arrests, and intimidation tactics by the Iranian regime, urging it to guarantee freedom of expression and peaceful assembly without fear of reprisal. And I just find that hilarious because Mark Carney, right now, the current Liberal government, in their works to install Bill C-8 and Bill C-9, which are threats of freedom of speech, they will eliminate people's ability for freedom of expression, is happening here in Canada. And I don't see a protest happening about that. I don't see people lying to the streets to know that your government right here, right now, is actively engaging in silencing you, in censorship, in an authoritarian regime takeover of the country. And that's what kind of ticks me off about this. That's what kind of ticks me off about when you see this kind of coverage. Well, we got to be concerned about Iran because they got secured their freedom, but your freedoms here in Canada, we're just going to completely ignore. Isn't that kind of interesting? Kind of interesting. Here's what makes this more interesting and why I kind of stepped back for a moment in shock. Because this guy, I don't know if you've seen this before. So this guy, Vivid, however you pronounce it, he's a massive Zionist troll on X here. He's a massive Zionist, pro-Israel, pro-Mossad, kind of, troll accounts, probably a spy. Don't really know for sure. But he's definitely on board with the anti-Iranian propaganda. He was on board when the United States, the Trump administration, bombed Iran when it came to the nuclear facilities that they claimed that they had for building up and they've destroyed. And he was also on board when Netanyahu went to the United States just recently, right after Christmas actually, and met with Donald Trump, and then shortly after meeting with Donald Trump, announced that there was talks and plans to bomb Iran again. And he was on board with this. But now, right this exact moment, he says, breaking. Massive rally in Toronto, Canada, as thousands of Canadians took to the streets to show their overwhelming support for the brave Iranian people. Hundreds of lion and sun flags were seen. Freedom for Iran. Wait a second. Hold on. Stop everything. Hold the phone. You're telling me that this country that you propagandize, you demonize, you attack people, you went after the pro-Palestinian people they're standing in solidarity because they don't want to see Gazan children killed in a genocide. You told them that they're a bunch of terrorist simps and a bunch of Neanderthals that don't understand. But you're standing in solidarity for the freedom of Iranian people. The Iranians that you claim are a bunch of Hezbollah nutcases that, they're going to do so much damage to the world that we got to stop Iran and their terrorist operations. You want freedom from this guy. I feel like we're in a Twilight Zone episode where everything I thought was going to happen, the usual suspects, completely went a different direction. Is this like a prank? Is Just for Laughs going to come out and say, "Ha, got you"? This is crazy. This is crazy. Here's Honest Reporting Canada. Another phony organization that is a Zionist propaganda arm. They are not honest, hence why they had to put honest in their name. If you were really a decent journalistic outlet, you wouldn't put honest in your name. That's like saying, we're really truthful, bro, organization. Like, you have to put that in your title. He thinks that that's a lie. So, Honest Reporting, who I've called out numerous times, they also, surprisingly, tweeted out this, saying an incredible 40,000 Torontonians took to the streets today to stand with the Iranian people in their fight to end the Islamic Republic of Iran. But if it was any other protest, Honest Reporting would say they're blocking the streets. They're blocking the streets. They're a bunch of terrorists. Bunch of terrorist sympathizers out there. That's what they would have said about a month ago. A month ago. They would have said that. They would have called this out. But now all of a sudden, oh, we got to stand in solidarity with the Iranian people. What? What? I thought we were never supposed to acknowledge these criminals, these thugs, these people that are going to grow up and become Hezbollah and become anti-Semitic and go and attack Israel. You know, they're demonizing the Jewish population. They're a bunch of freaks, according to outlets like them. So that's where I chimed in. I retweeted that with this little joke here. Not to demonize the demonstrations, because as a principled person, you know, people have the right to peacefully demonstrate something like this. And again, like I said, I understand people's connection when it comes to why they're showing solidarity for the Iranian people in their search for freedom, the same way we were trying to find search for freedom. What I'm pointing out is it just seems so manufactured that we're focusing all of our attention on a foreign country and their self-determination that somehow we're supposed to determine for them. And yet, here in Canada, the country is going in a downward spiral to a demolishment, and you don't see protesting happening about that. You don't see Torontonians going after Doug Ford and Olivia Chow on how they're turning their city upside down. You don't see that happening. So I said, wow, look at the Hezbollah terrorists out there. Will they get their bank accounts frozen or arrested for blocking on the streets? And I'm saying that, not to demonize the protesters, but I'm saying that because that is what Honest Reporting Canada, that's what their verbiage would be saying if it was a pro-Palestine demonstration. They'd be saying that if it was another country with a brown-sounding, name and a flag. That's what they would be doing. If it was any Arab country out there, they'd be saying about this. If it was a protest to, show solidarity for the people of Yemen, they'd be saying this garbage. Why are you supporting terrorists? Why are you supporting, jihadists in Yemen? Why are you doing that? Oh, but, because of this recently, now they're just going to be openly hypocritical, being absolute hypocrites, just like this guy, Ezra Levant. Now, I give credit to Ezra Levant when it comes to certain stories he's covered about the corruption within Tim Hortons, the temporary foreign worker program. I give Rebel News credit when they covered the trucker convoy when none of the other media outlets would bother to go within an inch. I give credit to that. But this guy is also another schmuck. This guy is also another propagandist tool for Zionism. So I just find it fishy that someone like him, Ezra Levant, who keeps reminding you that there's jihadists on the streets, that they're turning Canada into a third world state. Oh my God, how dare they? How dare the Iranians and people run amok in our streets? And I'm saying Toronto stands with the people of Iran. What gives? What gives? What changed? After everything you said, about all these Middle Eastern countries and how they're bringing the worst and just going on a full, like, just bigoted rants on social media for the benefit of Israel, mostly. Now all of a sudden, we're supporting the people of Iran. Now you're cheering on this. So I find this so amazing. Here's this woman in particular, and I bring this to attention because she's going to try to lure people in by calling them selfish if they don't support this. So she says, for the Canada-only people who masquerade as Canada first, Iranians were with us at the Freedom Convoy. Iranians were with us ever since. Drop your selfishness and ignorance. So she's trying to go after and demonize people like me, who I've been stating as a principled person that the reason I'm Canada first, or the reason I'm against, intervening in all these other countries, one, it's a big waste of time, energy, and money. And we know how corrupted a lot of these regime change wars. We know how deadly they are. We know how catastrophic and all that stuff. But the other important factor is it's diminishing to us. Because every time we get involved in foreign conflicts, every time we try to micromanage other countries and how they govern, it's destroying us. It's destroying us. And I don't think we have any right as Canadians looking at our government, looking at how bad our economy is, our infrastructure is, our healthcare system, everything that's going on within this country. We have no right to wave the finger and scream at other countries on how they should be governing. That's why I'm more of a Canada only, not because I'm ignorant to the situation, but because we should be focused on our own priorities. You as a taxpaying Canadian should be more focused on the country that you currently live in, because you have to deal with this every single day. Whereas another country, they should be having the right to self-determine. Why do we have to micromanage another country when we can't even manage ourselves? It doesn't make any sense. And I knew this when Ukraine was going on. It's still happening. And we know that it's just a big money laundering stunt. And it just seems like, once again, this is one of these conflicts that seems to be some sort of money laundering propaganda, some sort of fueling up. Oh my God, we got to care about these random people in Iran and their fight for freedom. That's why I'm going to drop everything that's going on in Canada and show solidarity for a foreign country while our criminals are still running amok. But here's what this woman had to say.
I am done with this mentality. I am a Canadian. I have zero ties to Iran except my amazing friends who I've met. I met the Iranian community in Canada through the Freedom Convoy in 2022. Iranians love their host countries. You will never see a rally for Iran without a host country flag. In England, they fly the British flag. In Canada, they are flying Canadian flags right now. They are fighting for the freedom in their homeland so they can return there. So if you don't want to see it, you should be supporting it. I interviewed today multiple Iranians who I met either in Ottawa at the Freedom Convoy or at Queen's Park, who were protesting for years for freedom in Canada because they understand, they've seen the pattern, they've seen what leads to a country's demise. Listen to them. Help them and be grateful to them for their advice, their wisdom, and their solidarity. This is Canada. This is a country of immigrants, whether you like it or not, and you should stand with the people who share our values and stand with you. Javid Shah.
Javid Shah. I don't know what that means, but that's what she said at the end. I'd say for the most part, I can kind of agree. But the thing that throws me, the curveball in this, is when she said that they're fighting, they're in solidarity here and doing protests in Canada so that they help in solidarity to fight over there so they can go back to Iran. I find that confusing. So you're telling me that Iranian Canadians that came to this country looking for a new life, a new opportunity, and better freedom that they had over there, supposedly are fighting in Canada and blocking the streets of Toronto to show solidarity for the people of Iran, that those people can then fight the government in Iran, and then the people within Canada are going to go back to Iran? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. If they really want to take down the government, wouldn't you want to go over there? Wouldn't you be in solidarity with them on the grounds of the country that you want to go back to? That's the thing that kind of threw me off. Like, I agree with the rest of the sentiment there, but that was kind of a curveball. And that's what kind of threw me off. Like, it just seems, again, it seems fishy. It seems very, very fishy. So, even this, and I'm sure many people saw this before. So this is the photo that's being passed around that they're trying to amplify on social media. This woman that lit her cigarette with the picture of the Iranian leader. And this guy, who's again another Zionist, it's amazing all these Zionist accounts are showing solidarity for Iran. Just now, after how long have they tried to demonize the country and saying all these people are disgusting monsters that are anti-Semitic, that are gonna kill all the Jews and scaring people? Now you want their freedom. You want their freedom. And Y'all Yankoboy says these women have more bravery in their pinky finger than the entire UN woman organization. So he's talking about this photo here. I'm sure you've seen multiple instances. There's more of it. And people are passing it around saying, my God, look at how brave this person is. Bravery. That a woman is saying no to the leader of this awful regime in Iran by lighting a cigarette. Oh, so brave, so wonderful. Clap, clap, clap. We got to show solidarity for this Iranian woman. She's doing it right in front of them, too. Oh, my God. That shows class. Well, turns out that photo was not accurate. That photo was staged. This guy, Kevin, goes by Waffle Bacon Boy, says this photo of the brave Iranian woman lighting a cigarette with a flaming picture of the Ayatollah is BS. The girl is Canadian. And this was taken back in 2022. Why do idiots always fall for this type of propaganda? I mean, the simplest answer I can give you is the fact the news media tells you to. And I could see constantly when you turn on the TV in this country, out of all the things that are going on in Canada, all the destruction and chaos and problematic situations that everyday Canadians are dealing with, what do you see the most of on TV? You see this. You see Ukraine. You see Donald Trump. That's because they're programming people to make you pay attention to stuff like this that seem manufactured and fake and phony, make it sound believable, sell you the idea that you got to put your commitment behind this instead of focusing on the real important issues that affect Canadians. They're not talking about the prices of groceries. They're not talking about the fraudulence that's going on in the CRA. There was an investigation the other day, which we'll probably get to later on. They're not talking about any of that stuff, but they want you to focus on, oh, we're overthrowing Iran, and we got to show solidarity for the people, just like they did with Venezuela. We got to show solidarity for the people. That's why we're going to plaster all of social media with fake videos of people cheering the arrest of Maduro. And I'm not saying fake as in they're completely fake and like AI, even though one of the videos is AI, but they're fake because those videos are not from the day of Maduro's capture. They're from other years. They're from soccer matches. There was one video that was from Miami that had nothing to do with the Venezuelan people, but all these influencers, all these grifters and peddlers have been pushing this propaganda down your throat because they want you distracted. They want you distracted for this. They also want you to believe this idea so they could sell you the idea of regime change war, which this is what it's going to lead to. They're hoping that you feel guilty or feel some sort of empathy for the Iranian people to the point that you feel it's okay that we blow up their country. And it's been the same effort, the same playbook that they've done for years. And that's why I'm not believing this. I feel bad for Iranian people. Like, they want to self-determine, give them the opportunity to self-determine their outcome of their country. But why are we getting involved? What's in it for us? So, even Owen Schroyer pointed it out, saying, ask yourself, why and who fed a video of a radical feminist in Canada from 2022 in your timeline, making you think it was an Iranian woman in Iran? So, that woman, in her bio, according to Owen Schroyer, is a radical feminist, which it kind of contradicts the whole conservative look on this, that you're now cheering on this radical feminist. Just as crazy as these Zionists are cheering on for the freedom of Iran, it's even crazier that these, conservatives that detest the whole feminist movement, and, many, they have good arguments when it comes to it. Feminism wasn't exactly the best outcome for women. But it's amazing that they're going to cheer on a radical feminist from Canada posing in this picture because they got duped to think that this is somehow symbolic against the Iranian regime. They got duped. And then you got this guy who commented on it saying, dude, the truth-seeking crowd is so effing tiresome and stupid. You know what that says to me? That's the don't do your research crowd. That's what that says to me. Dude, don't do your own research. Like, reading is for sissies. Don't look into things. Don't fact check. Don't provide evidence for your argument. Just shut up. Everyone's tired of looking through things. That's what I see from it. And then he says, she's Iranian. She lives in Canada. The picture was taken this year. Well, no. No, you idiot. Because Owen Schroyer told you it's 2022. This guy Kevin told you it was 2022. And there's other accounts that have fact-checked it to prove that was captured in Canada in 2022. I mean, even look at this. Look at the snow in the background. What place of Iran have you seen that much snow where a woman's wearing a jacket like that? I could tell you it's fake. I could tell you it's staged right off the bat. But you idiots will fall for this propaganda exactly for this. I don't want to do my research. I just want the news to tell me what I'm supposed to believe, and then I'll do it. Like a useful simp. That's what this guy is, this Aiden Mattis. Here's the other angle, though. And this is probably why the Zionists are getting on board with this, because that's the thing that really scared me, is like, why is Israel getting on board with the people of Iran and their ability for self-determination? What is that about? Why would Iran want this? Why would Iran, who's been viciously demonizing Iran, why would they care about self-determination? Well, maybe this is the case. Coming out of the Jerusalem Post, nonetheless. So it's not Al Jazeera, it's not Middle Eastern Eye, it's not any of the anti-Semitic outlets out there. This is from Israel. This is from Israel. They said the Turkish FM, which is the foreign minister, accuses Mossad of stoking Iran protests, saying Netanyahu aims for regional conflict. The Mossad is not hiding this, the FM said, referring to the involvement in protests. They are calling on the Iranian people to rise up against the regime through their internet and Twitter accounts. I think I heard that before. I think I heard somewhere. You know, when the first time they wanted to overthrow Iran, that they were going to try to do this kind of coup. Just like they did the color revolution in Ukraine. Remember they had all the protests that were going on in 2014? They ousted the democratically elected leader. They installed a puppet for NATO, a warlord who's really a comedian who plays the piano with his dick. That's how qualified he was. But he was a good little stooge and a puppet for the war establishment. Same exact playbook. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan accused the Mossad of using ongoing protests in Iran to destabilize the Islamic Republic in a Saturday interview. In an extended interview with the Turkish television, Fidan addressed recent developments in Iran and mounting regional tensions, repeatedly criticizing Israel for what he described as the involvement in the unrest. He argued that Israel is deliberately working to take advantage of Iran's internal challenges, including economic hardship, to weaken the regime. Actions, he said, are being carried out openly. The Mossad is not hiding this, Fidan said, referring to the protests. They are calling on the Iranian people to rise up against the regime through their internet and Twitter accounts. Fidan said that the past overt military attacks have united the Iranian public against external threats, whereas today's situation is different. According to him, Israel views the absence of the active conflict as an opportunity to deepen domestic dissent in Iran. So that kind of explains why the Zionist propaganda tools, the caricatures that all this time demonized Iran, now praising Iran, why they had that sudden change, why they had this bit of an epiphanal moment that, oh, maybe we should care about the Iranians and their self-determination. Oh, because Israel's doing it. Israel wants to crush within. And what works for Israel is going to work for these idiots. And that's why you saw all those accounts praising the demonstrations that are going on in Toronto. The demonstrations of how we got to all of a sudden care about Iranian people. We got to care about this country and their self-determination. When they never cared about it before. And if it was a protest about Gaza, they're not going to use the same language. They're not going to defend their ability to protest. Just like they wouldn't defend the protesting of other nations. But this is why they're doing it. Because Iran is being hijacked by Israel. Israel is purposely manufacturing this discretion in Iran and causing the global community to go in panic outrage because it benefits Israel. That's why they're doing this. It's the same exact playbook that they've used beforehand. It's very, very obvious to people that don't get sucked into the propaganda or useful idiot that say, don't do your own research. I don't care about these truth tellers. Then clearly you don't care about what's going on. Clearly you just want to be a useful simp. You just want to be an idiot for the establishment. He also claimed that Netanyahu is interested in triggering a broader military conflict, but not only with American approval. Everyone knows Netanyahu has such a desire. It's no secret, Fadon said. He alleged that Netanyahu will not proceed without guarantees from major allies, chiefly the United States, and that lobbying efforts for a green light have included his visit to the White House in late December. Yes, so Netanyahu went to visit Trump. They smiled, they giggled, they laughed, and, Trump made the statement about how we're going to make things great again in Gaza. And of course, Netanyahu walks away with his own mentality, with his own Luciferic mind, and is already self-determined that he's going to do strikes in Iran. And he might just do it anyway without U.S. approval. He'll just come up with some excuse for it. Or he'll get more blackmail on Donald Trump to entice him into this. Just like how Donald Trump was duped in and enticed to ignore the ceasefire violations that Israel did to Gaza. Thus, turning to Iran's internal state, Fadon noted that the country has endured economic sanctions for nearly 3 decades, describing the toll on the Iranian people as severe. He characterized the population as dynamic and sophisticated, particularly its younger generations, and said that while they are eager for a better life and economic opportunity, the sanctions have imposed major structural burdens. These issues, he said, are not the root cause of the reoccurring protests, including mass demonstrations in 2019 and again in 2023, while the current unrest is more limited in scale. So, they had mass protests in 2019 and 2023. Nobody gave a damn. Because those protests included the sanctions. The sanctions that we put on Iran to make it a shithole, to make it this authoritarian theocratic state. And again, no one's protesting on this. No one's protesting on that. No one's protesting that the reason behind the demise in Iran and why this is happening is because back in 1953, to show this is from PBS News, the CIA overthrew the government. CIA acknowledges 1953 coup, it backed to overthrow leader of Iran, was undemocratic. So what happened was the CIA did a coup d'etat on Iran, overthrew the elected government of Mossad, and put in a dictatorship. Why? Because we wanted the minerals. We wanted the oil. We wanted control. That was the start of the overturning of the Middle East. And that is why all these Middle Eastern countries that people complain are a bunch of dictatorships and why they don't have democracy is because of us. So again, really this protest should be about us interfering in the Middle East. Not why more people should be getting on board with interference. No, we should be stopping the interference. Let Iranians self-determine for themselves. Just like I don't want any other country to self-determine us. That seems like a common principle. That seems like common sense to most people. But unfortunately, that's completely lost now. Because you got propagandist tools, you got hacks within social media and the mainstream media parroting this garbage and not informing you of these vital facts that are important to understand why this is happening. And now you know why the attention's on Iran. Because Israel's involved with this. Israel purposely got people riled up to cause civil unrest. They're doing a coup onto Iran so that they can start doing military actions in Iran. They're just waiting for the green light of other countries. And it looks like, since there's all these protests around the world, the global solidarity, either Netanyahu found a way to blackmail these people, or these allied nations already on board to doing regime change in Iran. But if you remember what Wesley Clark said, it was the last of the laundry list. They've already done all the other countries they wanted to overthrow. Iran was the last one. And now we also got Venezuela. Now we're still dealing with Ukraine and Russia. They're still trying to pitter-patter on eventual war with China. And now you got Trump talking about annexing Greenland, annexing Canada, how we need to go around the world. You got Andrew Tate talking about just take everything. Take everything. They're a bunch of wimps. And that's coming from a guy who got beaten out by a gay reality star in boxing. So who's really the wimp in that? But that's another conversation. But there you go. See, there's more of the story when you actually read into things. Sorry for being a truth seeker from whatever that clown was. But that's how you find out the information. That's how you prevent wars. And the more you know about this, the more you can actually find diplomatic resolutions to prevent all this. But they will never allow that to occur because we're ruled by evil psychopaths.